Greetings, Tech Intersect listeners. This is producer Stephanie Renee, chiming in because Professor Evans is back out on the road this week. So we're shining a spotlight on episode 87 with Lamar Wilson of the Black Bitcoin Billionaires. Please use this content to refresh your interest in the vast potential of cryptocurrency. And then mark your calendars for this Friday, April 22nd at noon Eastern, when Professor Evans will invite you into her Twitter space to discuss Bitcoin and the significant opportunities it presents for a great wealth transfer movement in the Black community. Again, that conversation is taking place on Friday, April 22nd at noon Eastern in the @TechIntersect Twitter space. Until then, enjoy this spotlight episode.
Welcome to Tech Intersect. I'm your host, Tanya Evans, and my life and work exist at the heart of law, business, and technology. Yeah, I've earned a few fancy titles and degrees over the years, but the bottom line is I'm a writer, speaker, teacher, and lifelong learner, and I'm really excited that you've joined me on this journey. So what is Tech Intersect? Well, it's authentic, empowering conversations with really interesting guests who demystify complex topics to prepare you for the future. Because your future is now. And it exists where law, business, and tech intersect. Get ready to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. Hello, hello, hello. In this episode of Tech Intersect, I welcome Lamar Wilson, aka Big Mar, to the show. He co-founded the Black Bitcoin Billionaire Club with friend of the show, previous guest and author of Bitcoin in Black America, Isaiah Bitcoin Zay Jackson. And Black Bitcoin Billionaire is now one of the largest cryptocurrency groups on Clubhouse, and the group is receiving a lot of attention and financial backing from industry leaders like Jack Dorsey from Twitter. The club encourages members to invest in crypto through educational dialogue on Clubhouse, and Mar and his amazing team of instructors also share invaluable information on Twitter about how to get your entire Bitcoin life and the future of money together. He's one of the best in the business with a heart of pure gold, or should I say Bitcoins. He's also a developer and has created an app to streamline the club's distribution of Satoshis throughout the Black Bitcoin Billionaire Club community back in April of 2021. The app allowed thousands of Black Bitcoin Billionaire Club supporters to receive individual gifts of Satoshis, also known as sats. In previous episodes, you've heard me talk about stacking sats. That means collecting Satoshis to eventually someday get an entire Bitcoin. If you're not out here buying whole Bitcoins, you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin in Satoshis. Sats are the smallest unit of Bitcoin because 100 million sats equals one Bitcoin. Think of it as the penny to the dollar. And this amazing app also allowed the club's team of 100 Black Bitcoin Billionaire ambassadors to send and track and confirm those cryptocurrency transactions easily and efficiently using Cash App. He has some other really innovative things coming down the pike, so definitely connect with him on Clubhouse and Twitter at Big Mar, BIGMARH. That's BIGMARH. Big Mar. Okay, please take a moment to follow this podcast and then like, share, and comment so that others who would benefit from this content can find it. It's time to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. In this episode of Tech Intersect, I welcome Lamar Wilson, the one, the only. He's going to hate that I'm teeing it up this way because he's a very humble brother. But I welcome Lamar Wilson to the show. He co-founded the Black Bitcoin Billionaire Club with friend of the show, previous guest, and author of Bitcoin in Black America, Isaiah Bitcoin Zay Jackson. And now the club is one of the largest, no, it might be the largest. We'll ask Lamar in a moment. One of the largest cryptocurrency groups on Clubhouse and in those Twitter streets. And the group is receiving a lot of attention, financial backing, hashtag a shout out to the financial backing for sure. Show me your sats. That's how I know you're serious. But the club encourages members to invest in crypto through educational dialogue on a number of platforms. And I've wanted to have this conversation a lot. I've talked a lot. We have like no degrees of separation at this point. We will talk about all of that in a moment. But first, Lamar, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. The one and the only, I will accept that. I don't like to accept a whole lot of others, but
Excellent.
I am the one and only Lamar Wilson.
There you go.
There's only one like me, and I'm glad about that.
Only one like you. And for those listeners who don't know you, they will know that and feel that as well after we're done this episode. I've wanted to have this conversation for so many times, but I have such respect for you because there is no one better on Clubhouse, on Twitter, and just engaging folks in public about in a very straightforward, pragmatic, attainable way to get in and continue to, as I say to my students, learn while you earn. Because it's not enough to say, I'm going to figure it out and maybe in 2 years, I think I'll dip my toe in. That's not the nature of the possibilities here. I think it has particular importance for the Black community. And I know that you do too, obviously with Black Bitcoin Billionaire. So we'll get to all of that. But tell people your origin story. What in your background led you not only to buy your first Bitcoin, but then to shout it from the rooftops as an opportunity for economic empowerment, particularly for Black people?
Well, I'm a self-taught software developer. So I always say by trade, I'm a software developer, but by education, I have a finance degree. And there's no greater marriage of those two disciplines than Bitcoin. Like, I don't think it's probably the biggest marriage that you could have, and the baby they had was me, right? It's like
Exactly.
it birthed me out to make me believe in this stuff. But the way I got into it, I had developed a game platform called Fever and went out to Silicon Valley to raise money for it. And one of the VCs, the game platform was like kind of like Chuck E. Cheese online. So it had tokens in it and you could win prizes and all that kind of stuff. And the VC, while we were there, he said, I see you got this currency, this virtual currency in your game. Have you ever heard of Bitcoin? And we were like, no. And I thought he said BIG coin. And I was like, nah, I've never heard of that. So when we left, my business partner, he gets his phone out and he's like, oh, I think he said Bitcoin. And so he pulls his phone out, we look at it, and it was literally like BITCOIN, right? And we go to the site, and I looked at it, and being in that startup phase where you're trying to raise money, it's like you're trying to stay so focused. I looked at it, and was like, oh, this has nothing to do with what we're doing. Let's keep trying to get this money.
Right.
That game company failed. It didn't do well. We didn't have the right we didn't know who our customer really was. We were going after the people who wanted prizes, and the developers were our real customer, right? So, but the great thing is that seed was planted, and then the price went up, and I still trying to figure out when I saw it, right? But that price went up, and I remember going, oh, this Bitcoin thing is real. So I saw it, and I go back to the Bitcoin.org site, and I get the white paper. And I read the white paper, and that was the end. Because the moment I read the white paper, the first thing I said was, this is freedom. And me being a huge freedom advocate, me being probably my biggest heroes are abolitionists, right? Like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, my man John Y. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right? It's like, those are people that I always looked at, because I'm like, if somebody is in bondage and you're willing to go back and help them, even though you're already free, that is a powerful, powerful thing, right? And so I've always, so of course, with me saying that, it leads you to see why I yell it out at the rooftops. Because once I realized that Bitcoin was freedom and a path towards self-sovereignty, I started trying to tell people, like, y'all need to get in this thing. Like, everybody. I was like, you need to, and at first my megaphone wasn't that loud. It wasn't that big, I should say. And so I tried to get friends and family. And my first video I did, I was sitting on a street called Georgetown Street, 498 Georgetown Street, which is where our office was. And in Lexington, where I'm from, that would be considered the hood, right? Like, if you said Georgetown Street, most people would tell you not to go down there, right? Except for people who live out here, right? The people we wouldn't say, but the rest of the city's like, nah, you probably shouldn't go to that street. Our office was right on that street, and I remember sitting there doing that video, and my hair was huge. It was way bigger than it is now. And I was just like, I always say I look like Captain Caveman, but I was just like, listen, if you could have bought a share of the internet in 1994, 95, the transformation and transformative properties of that share of internet would probably be priceless right now.
Right.
And what I saw in Bitcoin, this is the internet of money, right? This is the protocol for money on the internet. This is the next step, the next evolution. And the biggest part of it is freedom. Like you get to control, own, have your own money. And it's like, if I'm a software developer, if I wanted to go write an API, some application programming interface to talk to my bank, right?
Right.
They would tell me, no, get out of here, even though it's my money, right? But in Bitcoin, I can create my own wallet. I could run a node. I could do this stuff myself. And so, of course, as soon as I understood and started to do my research and going down that rabbit hole, I had to teach myself a lot about cryptography and everything. I didn't go to school for any programming, let alone Bitcoin type programming. So I had to teach myself how everything worked. And as I did that, it just started giving me more freedom. So then I built a wallet with my business partner, Leif. He did the design, I did the development, and the rest, as they say, is history. Like that was it. And we named that wallet after the game company that we had founded and failed, which was Fever. So yeah, man, that's my life.
I love it. And yes, you better repurpose and elevate. I love it. I love all the things about that. Let's break down some of the language and the purpose of this too. In anticipation of this episode, I sent out a query to some folks on my list and said, what are the things that you most want to know? Or if you were starting over again, what are those basic building blocks that it would have gotten you to the yes much sooner?
It's
Let's
money.
start at
I'm sorry.
No. So people would say, what is Bitcoin? And in order to do that, you talk about money.
Yeah, because people feel like they understand money. And so you come to them where they are. If you start talking about the technology, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But when you start talking about money and then explaining to them that house that you have, that you're sitting in, somebody built that in 1951, and the wood and the rocks and everything else that it took to build and the tile, everything, the stone in your house, that had a value at that time. And right now, that house is probably maybe 5 times more than what it was in 1951. Why though? If everything's still the same and y'all only thing that changed is the person that moved in and out, why is that? So there's 2 reasons why. Number 1, land. So if you get into land, it's like land is a scarce asset. So you understand that if land is a scarce asset and they're not making it anymore, and people actually have to use it and want to have to use it, and it's only scarce because of the demand. Let's get that straight. All land is not scarce. Land in the swamps in Louisiana is probably not scarce because people don't understand scarcity is not just a function of supply. It is also a function of demand. It's not about just having a limited supply. And so land, the first part of that is when people have demand for things, then the price is going to go up. But you ask yourself, why did it go up so much? And it's because of this one little thing called what they've been doing is quantitative easing that they've been doing with the financial markets by printing more and more money. And the more they keep printing money, the more they keep and continuously keep printing dollars and trying to ease inflation, trying to wiggle inflation and try to figure out how they can control it. They continue to dilute the people that I'm around, right? White, black, red, and green, the people that I grew up around, like the people in those socioeconomic classes that have to go to work every day, blue collar folk, right? They are diluting their purchasing power.
Right.
And that is, so when I start talking about it, I tell them, look, that tomato used to cost 15 cents. I remember 15-cent tomatoes. Now tomatoes like $1.59. You know what I'm saying? It's like, think about that. It doesn't make sense. Nothing changed in the tomato. Matter of fact, it's probably nastier than it used to be.
It's worse. It's worse, right? I think about gas prices, right?
Yeah, gas prices.
I can fill up on, right.
You're not changing any of the internal mechanisms or what it is. It's fruit or it's, you know what I'm saying? But the problem is that when you have that and you see the price going up, that means there's a problem with the money. And that's what I explain to people because then they get it. I go, it's not that things are getting more expensive. It's that the money that you're using is getting less valuable. And that is the real true issue in this environment. And the other side of that, then I flip it over and say, listen, you probably don't even think about this, but in the same breath, when inflation comes, it also inflates assets. So those people that are rich and wealthy, it winds up creating a bigger gap because their assets are growing in value and you're over here having to trade your time for money, which is losing value. So that's the reason why my grandmother and my grandfather, my granddaddy went out to work. My grandmother didn't have to work as much. You see what I'm saying? But now,
Right.
how many households could actually survive with one person working? And my granddad was a horseman. Like, he went out and dealt with horses. How many horsemen right now can actually like support an entire family of 6 without the wife going out of the house and working? They can't. Why? Because the wages have not kept up with the amount of inflation from them printing dollars. But basically what they're doing, instead of them creating a better middle class, they're creating a slave class. And that's the part that people don't understand. And that's why I try to get them to understand, like, Bitcoin is the way out. That's the freedom that allows you to store your value into an asset that actually protects your purchasing power over time, to the point that since it's in its existence, it has returned 200% annually for the last 10 to 12 years. So that's what, like, I went through that spiel, and it's sometimes a little bit faster, sometimes a little bit slower, but that's the spiel I give people from the beginning.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
And that's a really powerful way to get at it, because it's, it makes me, I'm glad that you mentioned parents and grandparents and our ability, particularly in the Black community, to make some advances in this huge wealth gap. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it has to do with, think about how we were raised and how our parents were raised to focus on getting either a good government job or something that pays you a lot of money, get a little bit of insurance, certainly get a house and live happily ever after, certainly get your education and live happily ever after. Meanwhile, those accumulating wealth don't want a lot of income. They want capital assets that are appreciating over time that they then pass on to their children, who don't have to do as much with things that have 5x, 10x over time, just as you described. The wealth, focusing on getting high income when you are trying to focus on wealth is something that we'll never catch up in that way. And for the first time, certainly in my lifetime, it feels like we have the opportunity to purchase with dirty fiat. That's what I call it. You don't have to call it that, but with dirty fiat, to actually have a capital asset that has performed unbelievable. When I founded Advantage Evans Academy to onboard people, focused on people of color and women in particular, the price of Bitcoin was $9,300, June of last year, 2020, if you're listening today in 2021. And now 62,000, it's going to go up and down, but it's performing better than any asset class that I know of. And that is power to me in a way that, let's talk about why this is a better opportunity for Black people to accumulate wealth in a decentralized environment. What does decentralized mean? What does that have to do with the blockchain, and kind of bring that all together?
Yes. So, okay, now that they understand the money part, they're like, oh, Lamar, well, how does stuff work? And this is the way I always put it. It's like, things that are decentralized are anti-fragile, which basically means you can't really take them down. And most people don't understand what I'm saying until I tell them, like, look, you know what's decentralized? Terrorism. Terrorism is decentralized. That's why the war on terror will never work. Because as soon as you kill off one terrorist, his son or daughter is going to grow up and probably be a terrorist because you killed their father. And you don't know where they're going to be. You don't know where they're going to live. So you're not going to really stop terrorism. You're not going to stop the war on drugs. Why? Because drugs are decentralized. Every time you take somebody off the street, somebody's going to fill his spot, right? So that's another decentralized type of a network that is hard to take down. The war on drugs, here's what's so funny. The war on drugs didn't work enough that they finally just started saying, look, everything's legal.
You can't beat them.
So yeah, except crack and cocaine. Let's just make marijuana, mushrooms, everything's legal. LSD, whatever you want, everything's legal because we can't beat it.
Right.
And then if you look at this thing, and one of the ones that I really hit home about, I say, and I'm talking to you, but it's funny because I'm telling you how I talk to the people. But it's the other thing that I use is that like BitTorrent. I don't think if anybody remembers like torrenting software. But back in
Yes.
the 2000s, 2010, people was it 2000? It was like 2000s. In the 2000s, people used to use Napster, LimeWire, these platforms they were using to pirate, and the
Grokster.
FBI. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
FBI came out and had these commercials, had like a little girl on the computer, and then the FBI busted the door. If you're pirating, I remember these crazy commercials, and you know what? It wound up getting Napster and LimeWire shut down because both of those were centralized.
Right.
But somebody came up with the protocol of BitTorrent, a peer-to-peer protocol of BitTorrent that made it decentralized. So if you knock one of the nodes off, if you knock one of the servers off, somebody's not serving, somebody else will take its place. So from a test, so we move from the physical world into the digital world with BitTorrent. And here's what's so crazy: they couldn't beat BitTorrent. So what do? Instead of selling albums, everybody streams now. They allow you to
Right.
see. It's like technology and these types of things actually change markets because when you can't stop something that is that what's the word when a lionfish goes into a certain area invasive
Mm.
invasive when it's that invasive, then what happens is that the world has to change with it. Then in comes Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol that allows everybody to run what we call nodes, which are basically small computer servers, that they are connecting to this network, and that everybody in that network comes to what we call consensus, or if people understand consensus, to where they
Mm-hmm.
come to it over time, utilizing this amazing invention, which is proof of work. And so the invention really is solving the Byzantine generals problem. That
Mm-hmm.
in computer science, the thing I didn't go to school for it, just doing my research and stuff with it. That in computer science was a huge problem. It was a huge issue trying to figure out how to come to consensus in a distributed, decentralized manner, right? Over because you got latency, you got all these issues. So how does all of these different computers that are all over the place come to the same like understanding of the data, right? And so
Right.
when you see that right there became so powerful, and they utilized cryptography to be able to lock some of that stuff down. So now you have this system that you can rely on, like you can verify, and you don't have to trust it. It's a
Right.
trustless system that allows you to create the hard money that you need to get away from fiat. Because now you have money that cannot be manipulated by outside hands from a monetary policy position. You also have money that no one can confiscate. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
own you got your keys, it's your cheese. Shout out to my man Zay, Bitcoin
Let's
Zay,
go.
right? It's like now you have money that no one can confiscate. And so now you have this freedom tool, this empowerment tool that literally you can utilize to get you out of a system that systemically, I don't care if you want to say systematically or systemically, has been made to oppress us as a people.
Right.
So of course, that decentralization is power. And I think when you put it into the context of those other things, you see how no one can stop it. No one's going to be able to stop Bitcoin. And that's the power behind it. And the thing is that decentralization, even if listen, I do not like the drug war. I mean, I do not like the drug game, period. Because I
Mm-hmm.
don't like that the CIA was selling dope into our communities just to fund the war. So you know what I'm saying? Like, it's too much stuff going on that the CIA started in our communities and really decimated our communities.
Right.
But in the same breath, that same drug situation though empowered some of those people. You understand what I'm saying? From a financial standpoint,
Mm.
when you go into a community that has no jobs and has no real way out, then some of those people were being able to empower. And here's the thing: some of those people took that money and invested into businesses. Well, in
Right.
Bitcoin, this empowerment of this actual asset is going to allow people to separate from that system and be able to start investing into other things, mostly their family, right? Like
Right.
that's what transformative disruptive technology will do, especially when you get into it early. And that's why I've
Absolutely.
been screaming it from the rooftop, because I'm like, if you could own a piece of the internet, you can now own a piece of the internet of money and get it right now. I don't think it was 2013 into 2013 or something like that. I made that video.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's what it all boils down to.
So let's talk about getting in, and specifically for Bitcoin, can talk about some other things. I have a great question for you that talks about the differences between Bitcoin and the alts.
Yes.
And for full transparency, as the chair of the Maker Foundation that bootstrapped Maker DAO, we're winding down, it's fully decentralized and all of that.
Yes.
I adore Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the OG. Bitcoin is hard money. It's like, for me, I get that very much, but I get booed off of a lot of stages because once they see my background, like, oh, she's not about this life. No, I assure you I am. I used all of that to pay off all of my debt, my mother's debt. I helped my father. I bought my mother a home. I'm living simply with my little Black-owned business life. I get it, right? So, but before we even get to that, let's talk about the next question that always comes up is, how it's too late. Look at the price. I should buy these little shit coins because it's too late now. So I feel like it's like the penny stock grab in stock parlance, that I'm going to get like whole things of these little things that are meaningless because I can't, quote unquote, afford Bitcoin. Let's talk about, is it too late to get in and what that means to our community?
No. So you have the hardest money ever made. You have less than 2% of the entire world with it. Less than 2% of the entire world with the hardest money ever created.
And what does hard money mean for those who don't know?
So basically, really simply, hard is hard to create, right? Hard to create more. It's just that easy. It's like gold is hard money, was hard money because it was hard to get it out of the ground and find it and all those kind of things, which made it a lot less in supply than somebody just printing money or finding cowrie shells on the beach, right? So with Bitcoin, it's provably hard because you have a set limit that you're not going to find, you're not like, you can find gold in a meteor, just like they did in the Congo this year. They found a whole mountain of gold. It's like, you're not going to find any more Bitcoin once they print them all. It's 21 million. So,
and how many do we have out for those who don't know?
What'd you say? About, I think it's, I don't know exactly. It's over 18 million. So we have to tail into this thing. Right. So you're not going to have that many more, but it's still early from the standpoint of people still don't know about it. And you got an opportunity to actually get it. And it's funny because earlier this year, I was telling people dollar cost average, because, I'm always saying it was $60,000. And some people, when the price dropped down this summer, they were like, oh, you told all of these people to get it at 60 and look, they lost their money. And I said, if they dollar cost average, they ain't lost nothing. And as a matter of fact, I did the math, and this was last week before it jumped up to like 62 or whatever it is now. Right. It was, if you had done that from the moment I said that on one of the largest podcasts, you'll be up over 32%. Right. So what other savings account is giving you 32% on your money just for putting it back? That's what I'm saying. So it's like they still wouldn't have lost if they would have listened to what I was saying. And I hate saying that because I'm not the kind of person like, you should have did what I said. No, I'm not a should person, but I just also want to make sure people understand facts. And I want them to understand that there is a percentage return that we're missing out on because we keep sitting back trying to overthink the thing. And all you got to do is just take $5, $10 a week and put it in there. Take your coffee money and put it in there, right? So back to what you were saying. We basically were talking about, what were we talking about? The question was, about the difference between Bitcoin and the other asset. Bitcoin is money. That's full stop. Bitcoin, another thing, Bitcoin is finished. Like the layer one, there's nothing else that really has to be done. It does what it's supposed to do. You might not like how slow it is. You might not like the fees, but it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Right. The rest of them are all in flux. They are all promises that seem promising, but I haven't seen anyone actually show me that it's worth it, right? Now, are they tools? Yes, they are definitely tools. For some people who sell art and stuff like that, these have become tools for them. But that doesn't mean it's money. It doesn't mean it's something that you hold on to long term. I make it akin to Chuck E. Cheese. We talked about Chuck E. Cheese earlier, but clearly you can see I got a bunch of kids. It's like, if you think about Chuck E. Cheese, you go to Chuck E. Cheese, you trade your dollars for Chuck E. Cheese tokens. And while you're in Chuck E. Cheese, you use those tokens and have a good time, whatever you're going to do with them. But guess what? You're not walking out with those Chuck E. Cheese tokens thinking that you have value. As a matter of fact, you're only going to buy the amount of Chuck E. Cheese tokens that you think your kids are going to use. Nobody is in there overspending on Chuck E. Cheese tokens, right? So that's the same way with a lot of these other chains. If you need to use them, if you find some benefit from them as I always just say they're just a distributed database. If you find some value from it, use it and get out of Dodge, right? Like, I get it, but I'm saying there's no reason to hold on to these freaking coins. There's none at all, because none of them actually are doing the thing that they're saying they're supposed to do. And as a matter of fact, you can tell like something as big as Ethereum is not there yet because they are trying to make Ethereum 2.0. Like, nobody is trying to make a completely new version or upgrade of something just because and change over their consensus and everything if it was working. Look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not trying to, matter of fact, it takes forever to do hard forks on Bitcoin. Like even if they ever go through, you get what I'm saying? So it's like when you're forking off and saying we're going to change this over to a proof of stake, and you haven't been able to do it, and you had all these engineers, and everybody tells me the most engineers are working on it. It's like that doesn't make sense to me. So a lot of and if Ethereum's not there yet, of course their clones are not there yet. It's the whole point. If there's a defect in the original, then the clones are the same. But yeah, go ahead.
This is an important point for a number of reasons, because it leads us to, you made an interesting point. Utility kind of is a dirty word in the ecosystem, but I'm going to use it because I speak about this space in terms of crypto assets, not currencies. Not all of them are functioning as currencies. Right. In fact, one of the knocks, not from me, but that some people will say that Bitcoin is an epic failure because it's not used as a currency. It's more of a store of value. And let's stick a pin in that for a moment, because I want to talk about unit of account, medium of exchange, store of value. Yeah. A lot of people don't speak in that parlance. When I think about the other areas and how I might use ETH, when I think of hodling, holding for the long term, that's why you talk about dollar cost averaging over time and not spending now because of the power of the potential of appreciation over time. That's when you start to talk about the fact that, one, there are over 12,000 different types of coins and tokens, coins being native to a particular blockchain. Tokens don't have their own blockchain, but are recording to a specific one. There are over 12,000 of them. And it might be 13,000 by the time this airs, and then 15,000 the next week, right? You can make one today. So that doesn't make it the type of money over time that's going to move markets and make an impact, not only on someone's family, but on a community. We're talking about nation building.
Right.
And there are 12,000 other things you're not going to build a nation on. Bitcoin is different from that. And that, look, because of my love of the potential of decentralized finance, if that area can get it right, I like the ecosystem that is building decentralized finance. I don't think that we've seen the platform that's going to do it long term. Some of these things are going to be pets.com, right? You could have bought it and then you're going to be SOL. So let's see about that. But one thing we don't, in my humble opinion, and I suspect you agree, we don't have to see about Bitcoin. It does what it does.
If you're an engineer or a scientist, you love Formula One, you love cycling, you love learning about how new technologies are changing the world around us, then I thought you may want to listen into my new podcast, the Neil Ashton Podcast. We talk to leading engineers and scientists from around the world, hear about their life stories, hear about new technologies, and hopefully educate you and give you a better sense of how key things like machine learning, artificial intelligence, supercomputing are changing the world around us. If that sounds like it's something you might like, you should come and have a listen.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of Tech Intersect. Our conversation will continue in a moment, but first, a word on an exciting opportunity.
There's a more cost-effective and time-efficient way to reach your leading-edge learning and earning goals, to put you ahead of the stiff competition in this fast-paced, tech-driven economy. You need skills, credentials, and a fast track to a competitive advantage. You need it now more than ever, and I can help. The Advantage Evans method puts you ahead of the curve with condensed, comprehensive online courses, curated content to leverage your current skills and expertise, live coaching, networking opportunities, and more. Upcoming courses include From Cash to Crypto to help you buy your first Bitcoin, and there are 2 ways to get your advantage. Advantage Evans Encore gives you maximum experience for your total competitive advantage and access for 1 year. It includes a live welcome and modules on terminology, buying and selling, exchanges, mining, earning crypto, trading and investing, and also several of the legal issues you need to know in order to be safe and secure as you enter this space. That includes tax compliance, how to plan for a Bitcoin estate, and securities laws to make sure you avoid any legal unforced errors. Now, Advantage Core gives you the essentials. It's a short course to give you what you want and the support you need to buy your first crypto in as little as 3 weeks, with access to the information and replays for 3 months. And if you're not quite ready for your Advantage and want a sneak peek to try before you buy, then register for a free masterclass where I share my Crypto 101 success checklist and cover current hot topics in crypto. So there truly is something for everyone, including you, to get in on the fast track and learn and earn in the digital economy. Visit AdvantageEvans.com to get started. That's AdvantageEvans.com.
And now, back to the conversation.
When I was talking to this person that said that Bitcoin is an epic failure, given the Satoshi white paper and the pure, peer-to-peer cash and et cetera, now people are holding it so long. Does it really function as a medium of exchange, or is it purely store value? And do we care? Your thoughts, sir?
Okay. I get that all the time.
Right.
And what I say is Bitcoin is a tool. You probably heard me say this.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin literally is a tool. It's something that winds up being used in the hand of the person that's using it for whatever they need to use it for. In the United States of America, given that we have probably the strongest currency in the world, maybe outside of the euro, right? We are a British pound or something, one of those Western currencies, right? We have the global reserve currency. So therefore, people in the United States are going to holler. But when you go to some place like El Salvador, or a matter of fact, Nigeria, because in Black Bitcoin Billionaires, we have a lot of Nigerians, they tell us that they're using it as a medium of exchange. Just because somebody's not using the hammer in your part of the neighborhood to nail together a house doesn't mean that somebody somewhere else is not using that same hammer, right? Like somebody somewhere is using the hammer to build a skateboard. Somebody somewhere is using the hammer. You know what I'm saying? So you can't look at the tool and say, well, it's an epic failure because it's not doing what I thought it would do in my neck of the woods. It's like, well, you can do it immediately. The whole thing, what's so funny about that is that the person whoever said it's an epic failure could take out their Bitcoin wallet and send it to somebody as a medium exchange right when they say it. They could use the Lightning Network right at that moment. So the fact that you can use it for that at that moment means that it did not fail. It just means that you have failed to use it. It's different. It's different. Right?
Oh, I didn't know you were going to come on here and preach. Go ahead.
But that's really what it is, right? And so I think a lot of people, they want it to fit their narrative everywhere, but they don't realize it's a tool. Because there's somebody who's using a hammer right now to knock somebody over the head. For them, that's what they do every day, right? They use it to rob people or whatever. Whatever the tool is, it's in the hands of the person wielding the tool to actually use it for what they need to use it for. So that's how I feel about Bitcoin. And I think it's just, and here's the thing, these other chains. So let's get into that utility thing. I have a theory. I call it the Lamar utility token price theory. Have you heard this theory?
I've not heard this theory. Please tell.
Yeah, so I wrote it out. finally because everybody's like, Lamar, if you don't write it out, people going to try to say they did it. They'll write articles about it. So I wrote it out on Twitter just to try to store it because I do more of my communication is verbal. So the idea of the Lamar utility token price theory is basically if something is being used as a utility, then over time, the price of that thing will go towards zero because people will seek cheaper means of utility because they want the profits, right? They want to get more profit. So people at first, when I was saying it before, like Binance Smart Chain and all that kind of took off, it's like, no, I don't know. I don't know about that, Lamar. Like Ethereum's going to be it. I'm like, no. I was like, as soon as somebody can find the cheaper chain, they're going to use the cheaper chain because it's not about the chain. They're just using the chain for utility, and it's about their application. And at that point, they want as many profits as they possibly can put back in their pocket. It's their own it's into their own self-interest. And what happened? We got a far more, as a matter of fact, completely centralized Binance Smart Chain people are using, and a lot of apps have moved over to that. And now here comes the new guy, Solana. And people are moving over to that. So exactly what I was saying is happening. And what happens is if your whole value is wrapped up in this chain being a utility, then what happens is more people keep creating clones that they can eat. And here's what's so funny. They can easily just take the EVM from Ethereum and take all of Ethereum, make it completely centralized, and run their own system that's far more efficient than Ethereum. And most people would not care because at the end of the day, they just want the utility. They don't care about the decentralization.
Do you
That's
think
the part.
that the one wild card with that, I agree intellectually with everything that you've said. I wonder if the one wild card there is the import of community, at least in the early adopters. I think this will change over time as you have more mass adoption where people are doing precisely that. They want something better, faster, and cheaper, and they will go with the next better, faster, and cheaper option, which is the beauty of innovation. Some of it has to do with first mover advantage. And so, getting such a robust community. We'll take the Ethereum virtual machine community, for example, and the ease with which someone can build on top decentralized applications, decentralized autonomous organizations, and the robust community, because this place is very tribal. It's tribal in the Bitcoin community, it's tribal in the Ethereum community, and then the Solana and Cardano, like all of the things. So, how does community, if at all, move the needle one way or another?
But think about it. Early adopters are always tribal. That's how it works. When you're on this side of the bell curve, where we are now, starting to move up to the top, it's going to be tribal because you're trying to find your people. That's the reason why it winds up becoming viral within your people. The problem is that as you continue to start adding in mainstream functionality to people who don't understand how the underground technology works, we're seeing what's going on. So like NFTs, I go in these rooms because I've been researching for my son, and I listen. And I listened to one room that was extremely enlightening to me. All the creators up on stage who have made NFTs and done great with them, their biggest gripe was they can't wait until their people can buy their NFTs straight with cash without having to go through. So if that's the case, all you need to do is build a platform that utilizes Ethereum and all of that in the background. Think about it. Utilize Ethereum, utilize Solana, whatever you want in the background. And you don't even, here's what's so funny. You don't even have to do that because some of these creators don't even care about the decentralization of this stuff.
Right.
So all you have to do is build a platform. It could be on a database. And as long as the front end allows these artists to sell their stuff, guess what? They're going to sell them. The customers are going to buy them and people are going to be happy. And that's why I think what's going to happen is Ethereum, all of these will go the way of like the database. Nobody's having database wars. Nobody's out here like, well, I use MySQL. No, I use Postgres. No, I use MongoDB. Nobody's out here fighting over databases, even though all of their favorite applications are probably sitting on some version of all those I just said. Cassandra, all of these different types of database, right? MariaDB. So it's like you got these databases out here, but nobody knows. I think what's going to happen is that the apps are going to have to come to the forefront, and nobody's going to care about what they're using in the back end. And
I actually think that's a win. I actually think that's a win. But so I guess it might be a both and. If it's that the natural cycle, everything has a life cycle, right? I feel like in technology, it's exponentially faster than other things. We've gone from Kitty Hawk to air travel in 60 years, right? And now we're not just going out, we're going up, right? Think of what is happening in a very compressed time. And so maybe it's a both and in the sense that there will be a natural evolution. So don't get too attached to any one thing because over time, except for Bitcoin, in my humble estimation, everything else is figure out how it works until you have something better, faster, cheaper. I believe very strongly in how there is this push for NFTs for empowering creators of color who have been disenfranchised by intermediaries in the art space, right?
Yeah.
So we have that same power in the financial markets. We see that in the art markets. It actually doesn't really matter the platform, and we want to make it more economically feasible for people to not only just mint on somebody else's platform, and we're mimicking the same existing thing. We want to leverage that peer-to-peer technology, sell your NFT direct and get your coin and like keep it pushing. So that will be interesting as it evolves over time.
I think the coolest part, because I got to ask you a question. Have you ever heard of the Altair? Altair, I think it's called Altair computer.
No.
Like the first personal computer.
No, but I know of it, but no, not the name.
Right?
So,
No, people haven't really heard of it. Why?
Right.
It didn't win. It didn't win. And when you get into these platforms that are trying to be the next world computer, like there's going to be more competition. There's going just because you came out first and started the idea of it, the fact that you open sourced it means that they are coming. Like there's no stopping the fact that they are coming. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that you have this EVM, I keep trying to explain, like that's very transportable. Web3 and EVM are the two things that make Ethereum a lot easier to use for everyday JavaScript developers.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can take both of those, put it on their platform, figure out a way to make it a lot faster, figure out a way to, you know what I'm saying? And people don't care about decentralization. Get that thing up and running, and the next thing you know, Ethereum has, so then you got IBM, Gateway, Compact, HP, Dell, right? It's like that war was not an easy war. That wasn't an easy, like, there was a lot of
still being
casualties.
battled. Right. Right. There's a lot of proverbial bloodshed in those tech streets. But there always is.
But
there always is.
Bitcoin,
And this should be no exception.
Yeah, but Bitcoin doesn't have that issue. Nothing else is going to be able to launch the way Bitcoin did. Nothing else is going, like, that's the thing that I don't think people understand. Nothing else is going to be able to do what Bitcoin did, because Bitcoin did it without anybody seeing it. The person who created it could scoot away before they locked him up, right? And what I mean by that is that, believe me, if they could have caught Satoshi Nakamoto at the beginning and tried to kill this thing off, they would have. But they can't.
If they knew. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if they knew. So I think it was ingenious for her. I always say 7-foot Mexican
Love
woman,
that.
Satoshi Nakamoto. It was ingenious for her to leave, right? It's like, for me, nobody else is going to be able to ever achieve that again, because it's already out there. The government's not going to allow another Bitcoin to pop up and everybody jump on it, because they're going to find the person that started and say, look, man, tell everybody it sucks and get out. You know what I mean?
But that's why decentralization matters. It may not matter. I challenge this assumption, and I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't know why. That over time, particularly with all that's going on with the tech giants today, and with the win of Bitcoin over time, more and more people will realize why it's decentralization for the other 99%, or it's nothing.
Yes.
That if we just make 3.0 the same as 2.0, then we've lost. And this is the greatest opportunity to move the needle for sure. And, when I think of...
Even with that, sister, just really quick, I'm sorry. 3.0 is going to be built on Bitcoin because Lightning Network is perfect for it. And people don't understand that yet. I've been playing around with it. It is perfect because it incentivizes people to keep up peer-to-peer nodes.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And nobody's thinking about that much right now. But the fact that there's an incentive to keep these small peer-to-peer nodes up and running, you can build whatever applications you want on top.
Briefly tell people what Lightning, I realize the educator in me and in you, I'm realizing we are using terms that we are having a two-part conversation and my listeners are not going to know. Briefly say
right.
what Lightning Network is and how that, because what my purpose here is making sure that people who are on the fence or on the other side of the fence, particularly Black people who are hesitant to get into the space, they bristle with, they already think and know in their mind, this is like a mindset shift. It's too difficult, too risky. I don't know what they're talking about. Let me go get my money back into the bank where it's safe. Why is that a bad idea? And first tell them what Lightning is, and then why they should not do what I just described.
So Lightning is what we would call a layer 2 to Bitcoin. And the way it is created is they create transactions that have a certain type of functionality to them that basically locks up that transaction, so that without the permission of the two people in the transaction, that transaction cannot be spent. So it's basically, if I have what's called a payment channel between myself and Doc, right? Can I say Doc?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I just did one. Yeah. So Miss Tanya, I don't know what I want to call you. I'm sorry.
Let's go. Look, I'm adopting that. I'm gonna make a Doc coin. You wait. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. So Doc, so between me and Doc. So if I have, that's just the country in me. If I have a payment channel between the two of us, then it's almost like an abacus. So if I have 5 on my side and I want to send 1 over to Professor Evans, is that right? Can I just say that?
Doctor is correct. Professor is that. I like Doc. Let's rock with it. That's
Doc.
That's my new thing.
And I send over 1 to Doc, and Doc has 1 on her side. I have 4 on my side. It's like an abacus. What happens is that now I connect out to, let's say, Zay, Bitcoin Zay. I have a channel open to Bitcoin Zay, and we have an abacus. Now, the way it works is if Bitcoin Zay wants to send money to Doc, he sends 1 to me. Now I have 1 on my side in my abacus in that payment channel, and I take 1 and send it to Doc. And so that's how it works. And the technology allows for these payment channels to connect up throughout a network. So each one of those payment channels is just a very singular Bitcoin transaction that's on chain, that is actually submitted and committed to the chain. So it's pretty ingenious in how they have formulated this thing and created a protocol to allow all of these nodes to connect to one another to create this network to now where the fees that were on Bitcoin have come up another level and you don't have any fees. You can literally send money for free, and it creates that privacy that everyone was looking for from the standpoint, if I send money from Zay to myself to Doc, like now Doc has the money and nobody knew it came through me, right? Only Doc and Zay know that they paid each other. It might go through 100 million hops before then, but that's the Lightning Network. And that means that each one of those people have a node up, and that's powerful because if you are incentivized to run that node, now I can run all types of other applications on top. And I can imagine things like a Facebook that allows myself, Doc, and Zay to control our own profile without having to push it up into the cloud. Right. Because we're going to leave our nodes up. So if we're going to leave our nodes up now, if you want access to my information, it's on my node. And so you can ping it. Now you get here's my profile. Here's my pictures, everything right there on my node, right? And then you probably have people that help out and give more of theirs. You can share it with them and then be able to look, there's a whole lot of stuff you can actually do. And it hasn't been built yet, but the more I look at it, I'm like, whoa, it is a powerful, powerful, powerful thing. And so, and then the rest, like, again, that actually works, right? And they still trying to do more, add features to it, but it works. Like, you can send money on the Lightning Network right now. So I think when we start moving into those realms of 3.0 and all of that, like, we have to remember that an application is only as good as the thing you build it on. Just like a house. You build a house on sand. Yes. Your foundational protocol has to be solid. If you build a house on one of these other chains where foundationally it's not solid and you're expecting them to be able to move it over to another one, be very careful. But I think, again, it's not as crucial on Bitcoin because Bitcoin already works. If you do it on like Ethereum, the great thing about it is you can actually, again, if you build the application in the right way, you can move that application from Ethereum over to Solana, over to, right? Because those are the things that's the way I look at that stuff. I only look at them like databases. And as we can tell, a lot of people use a free version of MySQL for their website right now, MariaDB for their website. Nobody's paying Oracle for databases for real. Like big companies, yeah, I get it. But most of these startups, most of these startups, even think about it, even from an operating system, like most of the world's computers run on Linux, which is open source free stuff. So it's like, I feel like Ethereum and all of that, if you keep trying to hold on it from the price perspective,
the one difference that I see, I mean, I get your point, and there's so many things, and we're short on time. There's one other thing I want to ask and mention. When I compare, and I had a conversation a while back, Jimmy Song was on the show a while back. He was one of my early guests, in fact, and we were talking about, and he's spoken to my class as well, his opinion, and I guess it's true, I'm not a coder, I don't know, about the ability to run smart contract code on the Bitcoin blockchain. I know it was not built for that purpose. Evidently, it's technically possible. It doesn't do it in the same way as over on the EVM side. So there's some, I think to your point, you're saying don't hold ETH long-term because of XYZ, or even worse yet, tokens on top of it. You believe that this layer one on the Ethereum side is a house of built on sinking sand. Yeah. So let me say this. The one caveat I would give, particularly in the world of ETH, is what I know best, not some of the newer chains, is the fact that ETH is the oil that's running the entire thing. And so you have to buy into that to at least participate in anything that's recorded to EVM. And so it has made itself, the purpose for that coin is to run other things, not for the purpose of building wealth over time as hard money. Right. Can we agree on that point?
No, that's what I'm saying. I agree on that. That's the, like you said, that's the utility, quote unquote, utility part of it. And I think that's why, right? Like it's just like Chuck E. Cheese tokens. You just go use what you need to use and get up out of there. I've been messing around because, like I said, my son wants to drop an NFT, and I know all the Bitcoin maxis get mad at me because they know I'm a maxi. But I'm like, OpenSea is what my son wants to sell. So guess what? That's the place that everybody is. I'm gonna put it there. Like what else you want me to do? Unless y'all gonna come and buy up all of his stuff, unless you give me a contract and say I'm gonna buy all of his stuff for Bitcoin, I'll sell all of them for Bitcoin, right? I'll come out,
Yeah.
sell them off for Bitcoin, make sure my son gets his bread. Like, if
Right.
that's what you're going to do, but that's not going to happen. So I'm like,
Mm.
you got to put it in the marketplace where it is. But at the same time, when I was researching it, I don't even have to have a whole bunch. Like, I don't hold no Ethereum. Matter of fact, I don't hold no Bitcoin either. I did a cartwheel and lost it all in my front yard. But
Well, X1 does.
yeah, everybody does. Everyone does.
I think mine is
No,
there too.
but
It's
no,
in Lamar's
I
yard.
don't own any Ethereum right now. But I was looking at it, I was like, I won't even need much to push his contract. And then after that, it's up there. And then as he gets paid with the Ethereum, like, we're not holding it. Like, he's gonna take it, and I'm gonna take it out of the contract. And he's gonna take it and probably buy Bitcoin. Like, it's
I have
not
no
that.
problem with that. I have no problem with that.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like there's
Sure.
no reason in the short term, I mean in the long term, for him to keep holding on to it, because at some point when he needs it, he'll just go back and buy some more, use it, and keep it moving. Like, that's the thing. The only reason why people are speculating on it is because they have bought into this whole idea of this is the world computer. And the way I look at it is just like computers over time. All of that stuff goes down in value. But you know what don't go down in value? Hard money. In the world of fiat, hard money over time goes up in value until there's something to replace it, which is what we see happen with Bitcoin and gold, right? Gold was going up. It wasn't going up at a rapid pace, but it was still going up. Now all of a sudden, what happened to gold? Seems like a lot of people leaving that bad boy because they see that there's a harder money. And that's the thing. Over time, hard money winds up storing your purchasing power over time because of the fact that it's hard to create and there's a provable limit. That right there is what's your boy Michael Saylor say? Number go up technology. Like, that's the number go up thing. And I think that's what we need to look at. But at the same time, if you're gonna use them, make sure you think about it. Because my son, he was looking at Solana. He was looking at looked at Ethereum because of OpenSea. I told him don't even look at Binance Smart Chain. I don't know if you want to put NFTs on there. It's completely centralized, but for people in DeFi, they didn't care. What is it, Pancake Swap or whatever? Like,
don't even start me down that road. It's like I don't get that aspect of DeFi. I love some aspects of decentralized finance. I think it's very murky. It's too big of an umbrella with a whole lot of stuff underneath, and people using one term. There's a whole lot of mess in the space that makes it bad for the potential really great uses, which is a story for another day. All right, wait a minute. So final question. The other big question that I get, and I spend a lot of time getting people out of bad situations that they find themselves in with the self-custody issue. And custodying your own assets is something that also requires a mind shift and that you get your entire life together, because we're not just talking about $40 or $400 in a physical wallet. We're talking about life-changing money that it's one thing to not have your warm wallet, or if you have cold storage, and that's a sad day if you lose your ledger or something like that. The worst day in your life is when you lose your recovery phrase or your seed words. Can you talk about the importance of creating a wallet and how you manage that as a matter of self-sovereignty and self-custody?
Right. So, number one, like you said, you got to get your life together. If you're not an organized individual, you better figure it out. Because if you want to custody your own money, there's a certain level of responsibility. And I say that all the time about freedom. Like, freedom requires accountability and responsibility of self. And that's the reason why most people rather be in bondage, because it's way easier to leave all of that up to the slave master, like, real talk. And that's the part that bothers me the most, right? Is that if we only knew what it took to be free and we were only sacrificed enough to understand that, more of us would be free from all of these shackles that, hold us down. Not necessarily physical shackles, but mental and all kinds of other things, right? And a lot of it's just responsibility and accountability to self. And so you have to get your life together, but you have to make sure you have secure. So when you write, I was talking the other day and somebody was saying, like, if I just have a backup, is that okay? My thing is, I would always have a backup of the backup for redundancy. But basically what it is when I'm saying a backup, I mean, you have a seed phrase, which they give you 12 or 24, depending on what wallet you're using. And that seed phrase can help you recover your wallet at any point in time. You take those and you don't put them on just paper by themselves, because you need to laminate it or something to protect it. If a fire happens, a flood happens, like anything of that stuff happens. And hopefully you have a safe that protects against a lot of that stuff. but you need to put it in a place that is extremely safe, because you have to realize that that is not only your wealth, that is the wealth of your family for generations to come. And so when you think about it and be that serious about it, you're going to get your life together, so to speak.
Yes.
On the flip side of that, I'm trying to encourage people to lean more towards multi-sig as well, because it is just like in any decentralized, like when you have one wallet, there is a single point of failure. If you lose that backup, you lose your wallet, you're in trouble. But in a multi-sig, you can utilize the accountability and responsibility of others to kind of help you out and give you a crutch on what, you know what I'm saying, on every side. I think that is where I'm trying to get people to go, but most people, it's just like D++ was saying the other day, she's like, Lamar, most people ain't gonna be able to figure out multi-sig right now because the interfaces are too hard. And I'm like, well, that's part of accountability and responsibility, because at some point you're gonna need to figure that out. Especially Bitcoin gets worth $1 million of Bitcoin. Are you just going to have it on one little key in your backyard? Like, think about that. It's like, I don't think anybody wants to trust one single point of failure. Bitcoin's at $1 million and they sitting on, $100 million. Then what, right? You're not going to just trust that to a key. Even if Bitcoin's at $1 million and you're sitting on $2 million, you don't want to, you're not trying, you get what I'm saying? So I think it's very, very important when you get your multi-sig and everything. I mean, when you get your hardware wallet and those things, is that you really think about it from the standpoint of generational wealth and understand the importance of actually holding it. And that's the reason why I think most people want self-custody in the future, to be honest with you. Because some banks are going to offer it to them and they just going to be like, okay. And then when the bank confiscates it like they did gold, then they're going to just be like, okay, right?
Damn.
Right?
You're right.
That's really what it is.
You're right.
That's really what it is. So we try to, especially in Black Bitcoin Billionaire, we try to encourage everyone to get their hardware wallets. And here's the cool, our cold wallets, whatever you want to call them. And here's the cool part about that, though. Because we're encouraging people to do it, when a lot of them are starting off very slow, they wind up getting to make mistakes for $5 and $10 and $15, $20.
Right.
Right? They lose it or something happens with that amount of money. And they start figuring it out, and now they got it. And when they get it down pat, because they're only coming in with a little bit, they're not losing that much. And hopefully by the end they'll know what to do. So yeah, that's the part. If you want to be free, understand freedom and sovereignty takes your own self-responsibility. And you got to understand that, because ain't nobody coming to save you. Like when you're independent, that means there is nobody to depend on but yourself. And so you have to understand that, and it takes, like Doc said, a change, right? So
right. Look, we all we got is basically, I need that on a t-shirt. We all we got.
No, that's real. With Bitcoin right in the middle. We all
right in the middle. Right.
Yeah.
And we have this amazing opportunity in this moment in time. So let's get this right. If we're going to have to learn this anyway, let's learn it today. Let's not spend another moment on the outside looking in. This is our opportunity to do this for us, by us at this moment in time.
Right.
So that this time next year, when let's make this an annual thing. We're going to come back at least once a year and we're going to say, where are we today? And we're going to be in a much different place than we are today. Lamar, my brother, how can people connect with you? Like I do. I love to do this day and night and everything in between. How do they connect with you and Black Bitcoin Billionaire?
So on Clubhouse, it's definitely the club Black Bitcoin Billionaire. You'll find a group of very knowledgeable, the best part I like about them are compassionate, empathetic moderators. They'll take their time, be patient, and talk you through things. That's Black Bitcoin Billionaire on Clubhouse. Outside of that, me personally, you can find me everywhere at BIGMARH. And don't think like how you want to spell it. It's not MAHR. It's MAR with the H at the end. And the reason why there's an H at the end is because my dad says Big Ma like that. It's at the end. So in homage to my father and the way he says it, I'm Big Ma. So he says Ma, is literally how he calls my name. So just know that BIGMARH everywhere. And I look forward to trying to educate more people. I mean, that's literally what it seems like my call has been in this space, right? It literally has been just to educate people because I've been doing it. I put a post up yesterday or 2 days ago on Facebook. I was just like, I've been screaming about Bitcoin for 8 years, not because I get anything out of it, but because I love you. Like, because I love y'all. Like, the people on my Facebook, my parents, my family, like my friends, like I've been screaming about it, trying to get y'all in it for all of these years because I love you. I ain't getting nothing out of it. What do I get from it? Nothing. Matter of fact, I done gave more Bitcoin away
I know you have.
than some people own. Like, just I'm talking about my own personal wallet back in the day.
I
Like,
know you have.
you know what I'm saying? But it's like, but that's part of it to me. I think that kind of thing is what allows it to get spread, and then, you know, for all of us to try to help people get to freedom. We are fiat abolitionists out here. Like, we try to get people out of fiat. For real.
Let's go. My brother, I am there with you. I love what you said in the beginning, that once you are free and when you actually go back to get other people, that's when the real transformation of a people occurs.
Right.
I'm happy to be your partner in power. You know where I am, and let's continue to grow.
Well, thank you very much, Miss Nice Smile. That's what I'm going to call you. Nice. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. This was fun. This was fun. And anytime, like I told you, anytime you ask, I'm coming.
Wow. Thank you, Big Mar, for blessing the Tech Intersect family with this engaging and informative convo about Bitcoin. I am so hype. We covered Bitcoin and economic empowerment, the Bitcoin maximalist view of altcoins, DeFi and NFTs, and the debate continues, but I think we had some meeting of the minds for sure, particularly as it relates to Bitcoin. We talked about the power of self-sovereign money and self-custody and why folks need to get their entire lives together, their minds right, and commit to one positive action in the direction of Bitcoin and the future of money, wealth, and freedom. You can start by visiting AdvantageEvans.com to learn about my new membership club, AE Explore Live, and all of the courses and cohort offerings to get you in so you can win and, as I always say, learn while you earn. The time is now to free your mind and your money. And once you're free, do what Big Mar and Dr. Nice Smile do. Reach back and bring others along. There's strength in numbers on this journey to economic empowerment. And the journey begins with one step, and that's you. So let's go and let's grow. And before we sign off, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this episode and this podcast with your networks. And follow me on social media and let me know what topics you'd like to hear more of and who you want to hear from. All right, that's all for this episode. Until next time, continue to shine.
Stay in touch with host Tanya Evans via your favorite social media. On Twitter @TechIntersect and on Instagram via the handle TechIntersect. This podcast has been produced by Stephanie Renee for Soul Sanctuary Incorporated.